Okay, so we are at Parshas Tisa, and in this parsha we have famously the Chet HaEgel. Unfortunately, right, the story of the Jewish people right after the revelation of Hashem at Har Sinai, and right after the Aseres Hadibros and the Luchos, this incredible moment of Hashem, of God descending onto the mountain and speaking to the Jewish people, and this incredible moment of elevation. And shockingly, right after that, they fall to one of the lowest places and they build an idol and are punished for this. And there's so much really endlessly to discuss about this. How could it be? Why would it be that right after such a high moment they fall to such a low? And what does this mean to us and for us? And what in the world they built an idol? How does that make any sense, etc.? So there's a lot to discuss, but I want to focus on one specific thing that I think is very interesting. In the past few weeks, what we've been reading about in the Torah has been the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, right? This place that was the kind of like the prelude to the Beis HaMikdash. Before they had the Beis HaMikdash, when they get to Eretz Yisrael, they get to Yerushalayim, and they build the Beis HaMikdash, which is this place, this home for Hashem's presence that they visit. That's a permanent structure. But in the desert, in the wilderness, while they're traveling, they built a kind of traveling version, a Mishkan, a place that was the center of their encampments, where Hashem's presence would be found, where they had the menorah, they had the Aron Kodesh, they had the Mizbeach, they brought sacrifices, korbanos, and they had this beautiful, it was built with all sorts of different wood and colors and textures and fabrics and all these incredible, beautiful, from the most exquisite things in the world, and it was done in this amazing way. And this was a structure that would be built and taken apart and built again and taken apart every time they traveled. And so for the past few weeks, what we've been learning about is how it's built and how it's structured and what it's supposed to look like. So here's the question. In the Torah, the past few weeks, it's been all about the building of the Mishkan. Then we get to this week's Parsha, and we have the story of Chet HaEgel, of the sin of the golden calf. So if you read the Torah at its surface level, the way it appears, it would seem to be that there's a mitzvah, there's a commandment to build the Mishkan. Separately from that, after that, at a later point, there's something else that happens, the story of the golden calf. And these two things have nothing to do with each other. First, we have a mitzvah of building a Mishkan, which is irrespective of anything to do with the Chet HaEgel. And then there's the story of the Chet HaEgel. That's what it would seem like. And that actually is the position of some of the Rishonim, the Ramban in particular, says that. However, Rashi learns and explains on the Torah that this way of structuring the Parshios is actually not accurate. Really, the order, the sequence of events is different. What really happened historically, sequentially, what really happened is that Hashem never had in mind for there to be a Mishkan. There was no concept of a Mishkan as the prelude to the Beis HaMikdash. There was going to be a Beis HaMikdash, but there was never supposed to be a Mishkan. But then the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf. There was Chet HaEgel. And because of Chet HaEgel, only because of Chet HaEgel, only as an afterthought, as a b'di'evet, as we call it, right? As an unfortunate circumstance, as a less than ideal circumstance. Because of the fall of Chet HaEgel, Hashem then decided, I'm going to give the Jewish people a mitzvah to build a Mishkan. So the Mishkan was only in response to Chet HaEgel. And the Torah tells us this out of order. There's a concept, ein muktam u'me'ochar b'Torah. You can't assume that the way the Torah is written is historically sequential. This idea brings us to something so important to understand about Torah. The Torah has a lot of stories, but the Torah is not a history book. If the Torah was a history book, it would have to be written in order. The fact that we say that the Torah is not necessarily written sequentially is because the Torah is really the word Torah. The word Torah means instruction, teaching, like a mora, a teacher. A hora'ah is an instruction, a teaching. The Torah is our teacher. It's not teaching us history, it's teaching us about life. And so sometimes the order of how things are written in the Torah is not historically sequential. Rather, it's organized in a way to teach us something specific. So things might be written out of order to teach us something. And Rashi says that this parsha is an example of that. The Chet HaEgel actually happened 4 weeks ago in terms of Parshios. It happened before the mitzvah to build the Mishkan. The mitzvah to build the Mishkan was a response to Chet HaEgel. So there's two questions to ask here. We're only going to address one of them today. But the two obvious questions are, number one, why is the response to Chet HaEgel the building of a Mishkan? Why is that the response? That's a very important question, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. What I want to talk about is a second obvious question, which is, okay, so why is it written out of order? So we explained it's written out of order because it's there to teach us something. So what's it teaching us? What is this reversed order teaching us? What are we supposed to learn from the fact that the Torah puts the building of the Mishkan before Chet HaEgel, even though Chet HaEgel actually happened first, and the building of the Mishkan was the response to Chet HaEgel, but Hashem tells us about the Mishkan first. Why? What does that teach us? I think it tells us something incredibly profound. It's a little bit of a deep and subtle concept. So let me try my best to explain it. The Torah puts the building of the Mishkan first because even though on one level it happened only as an unfortunate response to something going wrong, Chet HaEgel, once something is the reality, it becomes the lechatchila, it becomes the ideal. Meaning, there can be a situation where a person makes the wrong choice. They do something that they shouldn't have done, which brings about a new circumstance, which is not the way it should have been. They now have to deal with something that they shouldn't have had to deal with. And it's a result of a poor choice that they made. It's a result of having gone in the wrong direction. But once that has happened, and now they're facing that new reality is not an unfortunate reality. It's not a result anymore of the bad choice. Now it becomes the ideal. So prospectively, meaning beforehand, if I were to tell you, you have a choice A or B, A is the ideal, B is not. B is not the right way to go. If you choose A, you're going to have a certain circumstance, and if you choose B, you're going to have a different circumstance. The circumstance that emerges from choice B, which is the wrong choice, is not a good circumstance. So in a moment when you're standing at the fork in the road, and there's A and B in front of you, there actually is something called the wrong choice, which will bring about an unfortunate circumstance. And that's true. That's a reality we all have. We all have choice. We have free will. We are given by Hashem something called Bechira Chavshis, which means the ability to choose what we do, and there are right things and there are wrong things. And when we choose the wrong things, it brings about an unfortunate circumstance that we now have to deal with. That's true prospectively, when we're still standing at the fork in the road with the two choices in front of us. But the Torah here is teaching us an incredibly deep secret, and it's actually something very tricky and very delicate. I'll explain why in a second. What it's teaching us is that even though before you chose B, B was the wrong choice, and the circumstance that emerged from B are not the way it's supposed to be, once you're now facing that circumstance, you've already chosen B. It already happened. You already went down that path. And now that circumstance is a reality. Now, you have to put on a completely different pair of glasses. Now you have to take off the glasses of looking at A and B as a right and a wrong, and you have to put on a completely different set of lenses and actually look at the circumstance in front of you and say, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be dealing with. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be facing. This is exactly the way it's supposed to be. This is not a b'diavad. This is not an unfortunate. This is not a level down. This is the ultimate. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be working with, what I'm supposed to be facing, what's supposed to be going on in my life. You could see why I say this is a little bit of a secret concept. And I mean secret in I actually mean that. Because in the Sfarim, in the Jewish texts, this concept was this is a true concept, but it has been at many times in Jewish history, almost, so to speak, censored. It's been kind of kept hush. You can understand why. Because you can imagine somebody coming and saying, well, if when I choose B, now that becomes the ideal, well, then I can just choose B. Because whatever I choose will become the ideal, so it doesn't matter anymore. There's no right or wrong. There's no, I have to work to do my best to choose A. Whatever I choose is going to become the ideal. Whatever is going on is going to become the ideal, so it's all good. It's all fine. I can just go and do what I want. You can understand how that could be a slippery slope, which is why we need to emphasize so strongly the following concept. Hashem controls and runs every single thing in the world, without exception. Hashem orchestrates every single thing in the world. And our knowledge of that is called emunah. Faith, belief, that's called emunah. We also believe, however, that there's something called bechira, as I mentioned before, that we have choice, we have free will to choose what we do. Now, when it comes to the weather, okay, that's not a contradiction. Hashem chooses the weather. We have no choice over the weather, so that's easy. But when it comes to our choices, which one is it? Did we say that Hashem runs every single thing in the world? Or did we say, I have choice? So the answer, which is not really an answer, because it's still a contradiction, and it's a mystery that we don't know the answer to. It's a mystery we don't know the answer to. So we don't know how to explain this, but we know how to live this. The way to live it is to distinguish between the prospective and the retrospective, meaning when I'm looking at a choice that's in front of me, like I explained before, I'm standing at the crossroads. I can go right or I can go left. From in that moment when I'm looking at something in front of me and I have choice of which one to do, then I need to put on the glasses called bechira, that I have choice and I have a mitzvah, a commandment, a responsibility to do my very best to choose the right thing. And there are things that are called right and wrong. When it's a choice that's in front of me, that's my responsibility. And I have to look at it as I have choice. I have control over this. But then, once I've made the choice, I now have to take off the lens of bechira and put on the lens of emunah. And say that now that my point of choice is over, whatever it is exactly what it's supposed to be. Is exactly how it's supposed to be. Even if I made the wrong choice, on some level that now becomes that it was the right choice. Now, that doesn't mean I made the right choice, but it means that what's in front of me is what's supposed to be in front of me. Which is, again, the ultimate paradox that we can't really understand. So there's this moment of shifting from when it's future to when it's past. And I think maybe that's what the Torah is trying to teach us by reversing the order. What it's telling us is like this. On one level, Hashem never had in mind to give a mitzvah of the Mishkan. And then what happened? The Jewish people fell to the sin of Chet HaEgel. And in response to that, Hashem gave them the Mishkan. That's an unfortunate circumstance. They made the wrong choice. They did the wrong thing, which brings about a b'diavad circumstance, an unfortunate circumstance. But once that happened, now that already happened, the Mishkan becomes the ideal, not a b'diavad. It becomes the ideal. It becomes exactly how it's supposed to be. And to show us that, to show us how far that concept goes, the Torah actually gives us the mitzvah of the Mishkan before it tells us anything about Chet HaEgel. To show us that now that Chet HaEgel happened and we have the mitzvah of the Mishkan, I'm going to give you the mitzvah of the Mishkan as if it has nothing to do with Chet HaEgel. What brought that about? A wrong choice, an unfortunate circumstance brought that about. But now that that's here, it actually stands completely alone, completely independently. So I give you the mitzvah of the Mishkan as if it has nothing to do with Chet HaEgel, to show you that now that this is here, this is the ideal. That whatever is in your life that's in front of you, and we all need this because every single person, every one of us has different things in our lives that we think, this is not how it's supposed to be. Okay, I have to deal with this. I have to deal with it. But this isn't what I should be dealing with. This is holding me back. If I would have done this differently, it would be different now. If I would have done that differently, it would be better. They have it better than me. This neighbor, this friend, this person, they have it ideal. I have it unfortunate. Okay, I do the best I can, but it's unfortunate. And what the Torah is coming to teach us by this order of the Mishkan and Chet HaEgel is that what we all need to try our best, it's very, very hard. This is very hard, but to try our best to do is captured, I think, beautifully in a song that I love. There's a great artist, actually two brothers named Chaim Guri and Shlomo Guri. They are what's called Waterbury Unplugged. If anybody listens to their music, you could find it on Spotify or anywhere. Beautiful music. And they have a song called Alive. It's a gorgeous song. And one of the lines in their song says like this. It says, "For as long as I live, I'm choosing to be alive." It's such a deep line. For as long as I live, I'm choosing to be alive. Which is what the Torah tells us. There's one place that the Torah tells us that we should choose the good. I'm putting in front of you good and bad, choose the good. But there's another place in the Torah that tells us, Ubacharta b'chaim, choose life. It's not telling us to choose the good, because it already told us to choose the good. It's telling us to choose life. What does it mean, choose life? If you're alive, you're alive. For as long as I live, I'm choosing to be alive. Because there's a difference between living and being alive. Ubacharta b'chaim means choosing to be alive. It means choosing to look at the circumstance in front of me and say, I'm choosing life. I'm choosing to see this through the perspective of this is exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm embracing this. I'm not just dealing with this. I'm not just working through it. I'm not just accepting this. Ubacharta b'chaim means I'm choosing to see this. This is life. For as long as I live, I'm choosing to be alive. That, I think, is what the Mishkan is teaching us. That even though on one level the Mishkan was only in response to Chet HaEgel, once it happened, it becomes the ideal. And therefore the Torah teaches it to us separate from Chet HaEgel, trying to show us that whatever choices you've made, whatever decisions, whatever circumstance are now in your life, once they're there, they're option A. They're not option B. They become option A. They may have been option B at one point, but once they are what they are, then that becomes option A. Hashem should help us to be able to see that in our lives. It's a very, very hard thing to do. B'charta b'chaim, to choose life, to see the ideal in every single thing that comes our way that we face. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great Shabbos.